There we go. My computer wanted to freeze up and not put us on the air this morning. Welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and this is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program because we are being joined by Luke Kelly. Luke, thanks so much for being on the program. Oh, look at that. I got to turn your mic up. That's broadcasting 101. I apologize. But thanks, Luke. Thanks for being on the program. I know you've got a very busy schedule, so I'm going to get right to it. Tell us a little bit about your background. You are fighting this weekend at the L. That's 116 Breezeport Road in Horsehead. You're going to be fighting Chase Bally at 155. What decided to get you into MMA? It's not the easiest sport.
No, I played all kinds of sports growing up in school. Once I graduated, I was just getting kind of bored, looking for that competition, something to do. I walked into Contact Sports Club in Mansfield, a Gracie Baja gym, and started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and was hooked from day one. And I was always a fan of the sport, always a fan of the UFC, everything like that. And
Sure.
I'm naive enough to think, hey, I could do that one day. So I said something to my coach. We started training, and here we are, 3-0, fighting this Saturday, September 2nd at the L for the belt,
And that's amazing. And we were talking off the air. This is your first championship fight.
Yes.
Wow. What's that feel like? Is it different than a normal fight to you?
No, it's not any different. I mean, the fight's going to be the same. I fought at this venue before, so everything's going to be the same. It's just the reward at the end is going to be even bigger. The payouts even more,
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned fighting at this venue before. It's the L in Horseheads. What's it feel like? Because you've got to have a lot of hometown people come and visit and watch. Because I know the crowd last time was wild. So I'm just wondering what that feels like as a fighter when you're up there and all you can see is a mass of humanity.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's going to be equally packed, if not more packed. I've got a ton of fan base coming. It's going to be super loud, super energetic. My opponent Chase is a local guy. I hope he's got just as many people there, so that when we both step in there, that place just goes. We blow the roof right off that place.
How do you prepare for a fight? Like, what's your normal training process like?
I train 7 days a week. If I'm not at the gym, I'm at home. I'm hitting the bag. I'm running. I do a lot of hard cardio pushes, a lot of rounds. Nothing real different from anybody else, I don't think.
Are you more of a striker or are you more of a wrestler? I don't know if that's the official terms. I apologize if not.
I would consider myself more of a grappler.
Okay.
A grappler than a striker, but yeah.
Were you in high school and growing up, did you wrestle?
I wrestled up until like 7th grade.
Okay. Do you think that helped you prepare for MMA or no?
Yeah, for sure. Because it's still there. Like, I still have some of that wrestling base in my grappling and everything.
So I asked this of your opponent because that was pre-recorded. Did you have to cut weight or add?
A little bit, not much, no.
So what's that process like? Well, so you didn't really have to struggle to get to 155 then?
No, it's pretty easy.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty easy, mostly just miss a meal, maybe sweat out a pound or two, and you're good to go.
Well, I was going to ask what your first meal would be after, but if you didn't have to work for it, what's the difference, I guess, right? Just a normal everyday. So what's the morning of the fight like? I always think about this when you see, you're watching a heavyweight championship or whatever. You have a whole day to just have this fight on your mind. So what will you be able to get sleep? Will you just do your normal daily routine?
Yeah. I usually, I wake up early in the morning. I usually get up, eat some breakfast, chill out, maybe get in the hot tub for a little bit. Honestly, I usually take a nap in the morning before I have to leave, and then we got to be at the venue by like 1 or 2 o'clock. So I usually like to get a nap in and then head to the venue, and again, it's just more waiting once you get there,
Yeah. So when you get there, you've got to get warmed up a little bit. So what do you do? Just practice? You spar a little bit in the back, or because 1 o'clock seems really early to get there.
Yeah, I mean, you got like medical check-ins and meetings and like blah blah blah. I do a lot of stretching throughout the day, just trying to stay loose, because it's easy to just sit around and do nothing. But then we'll warm up. I'll hit mitts with my coaches. I'll roll around with a training partner or something. We'll kind of go over game plan, go over just basic strategy, basic moves, and get a sweat going, and then go out there ready to go.
So when you're getting in the octagon, is there an adrenaline rush? Is there a little bit of intimidation? What's that feeling like for those of us that will never know? I know you probably think I'm a fighter, but I've never fought. I'm just as naturally athletic. But what is it like when you step into the octagon for you?
It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's almost like an out of body experience. It's definitely an adrenaline rush. I mean, but it's pretty cool, you know, because it's kind of like this whole 2, 3, 4 month, however long it was, build up to this moment, you know, and in that moment, I take that as this is my opportunity, you know, to show everybody what I can do and how good I really am, you know.
And you're fighting for the vacant lightweight championship belt. And that's got to be, as I said earlier, very exciting. This is only your 4th fight, and you're already going for a championship. That's got to be something to be proud of.
Yeah, it is. I think my strength of schedule, I fought some really tough guys.
Yeah.
And the results that I've been able to get out of those and the way that I've beaten those guys really speaks for itself. And I think I bring a pretty big fan base. You know, I definitely make for an exciting fight. I bring the energy, so I think all that culminates together in the championship fight.
So after win, lose, or draw, whatever happens on Saturday, what's next? Do you plan on staying in the MMA game, move up? What's your plans?
I don't really have any plans past Saturday night. Everything's been focused on Saturday. I'm going to be the champ. After that, maybe look to defend. Who knows?
Yeah. So again, I mentioned this is live TV, so be careful with this question. What do you think of your opponent?
I don't really know him personally. I know, like, stylistically, he's kind of like a boxer. He definitely comes to fight. He definitely throws hard. He's not afraid to get down, you know, which is cool. But no, I don't really know much about him. I hope he's ready to go. I hope he shows up, you know, shows out.
Yeah. Do you find that more difficult to face a boxer because your skill set is a little different?
No. The first guy I fought was a pure striker, and then the last 2 have been grapplers as well.
Did you have MMA or maybe just athletes in general that you looked up to growing up?
Yeah, a bunch of them, you know. As a football fan, it was always, you know, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, you know, fighting. I've liked fighting since I was a little kid, so, you know, I could sit there and name, you know, all the Chuck Liddells and Anderson Silvas and blah, 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 you know.
Is there anybody that you found yourself styling your game after, or is that not common in MMA?
A little bit, yeah. I watch a lot of the Southpaws. I like Dustin Poirier. I like to watch his stuff a lot. Robbie Lawler is really good. Connor's great. Just in the striking department.
Right. Are you left-handed?
Yeah.
I wonder how that. I guess I should ask this of your opponent, but that's got to be a whole different fight plan being a lefty as compared to orthodox or, you know, standard.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely adds some different elements on the feet. The angles are different. You mentioned you're a boxing fan, so I'm sure you.
Yeah. I know a lot of times people are scared to get into the ring with a left-handed fighter because they just don't know how to prepare for that. I guess that's what I'm saying. At least in boxing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't have a lot of natural southpaws, it's really hard to get someone that can emulate what a real, like, true southpaw can do.
Right. How long have you been fighting for?
My first MMA fight was about 1.5 years ago.
Oh.
But I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like 4 years now.
So 1.5 years ago, and you're already fighting for the belt. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's moving fast.
I mean, I guess that speaks for your career, right? I mean, it's got to say something about your style. So before we go, this is such a corny question, but I think it's important. A lot of people wonder the process of picking a song to enter the ring. How much do you put into that?
Oh, this is funny. About like none. I usually Matt will text me like the night before and be like, "Hey, you haven't given me a walkout song yet." And it's like cramming for a test. I gotta like scroll through YouTube views or something and find him a good one, you know.
Oh, that's funny. So that is not your main focus before you're going to fight. Is not a song.
No, I don't really listen to a ton of music anyways.
Yeah.
So it's just throw something on and let's go.
Luke Kelly is our guest. He's fighting Chase Bally this Saturday at the L. Before we go, what's the best place to get tickets? Because I know it benefits the fighter. So you mentioned you're going to have a lot of people there for you, so they can buy a ticket almost under your name, correct?
Yeah, that's right. You can buy them online at gladiuscombat.com. They have a special tab for the two main event fighters, for
Okay.
myself and Chase. If you buy them from there, then each fighter just gets a slight kickback. Or if you know a fighter that's fighting, always buy a ticket from the fighter to help out the local fighters.
Do you personally have any tickets left? Probably.
Yeah, I've got a couple general admissions, not a ton, but a couple.
Yeah. Well, Luke, thanks so much for being on the program this morning. I know you got to get to work and you've got to train. So best of luck on your fight on Saturday.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. We are back. Sorry. I didn't have the Be Right Back logo up. Hey, thanks to Luke Kelly for joining us. In just a moment, we're going to talk with Chase Bally. That is his opponent. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We do have a lot to get to. I had to jump on right with him because he has to work. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you my contact information. If you have any questions for our guests at any point, but I will be honest, Chase Bally, who's coming up next, that is pre-recorded, as I mentioned during the interview. So please, by all means, reach out to me there for any topic you'd like to discuss. As a matter of fact, we received an email. I'm hoping I can read it, or it was maybe a text, because we try to get to as many of your questions, comments, concerns. Here's an email. I'm going to try to read it here. Yesterday we talked about masks making a comeback and this rise in the new COVID and some people talking lockdowns. The thought of slapping the mask back on is more disturbing to me than taking chances with the flu. This is wrong on so many levels. We cannot and should not take this without some pushback, in my opinion. Air is essential, and with everything that is coming out and has come out about this controversial subject, at the very least, it should be an option. I know far too many people, including myself, who suffered high anxiety, not for fear of the potential risk of getting the flu. Rather, what it felt like was little more like political control and sort of dress rehearsals to see how the masses reacted. And because there was a fear of the unknown, we listened and complied while they lied. You know, that is a good point. I talked to a lot of people that said that they suffered from anxiety during this, during the original days of COVID, but also after the fact. Still a major issue, and we've had stories on this program time and time again about anxiety medication on the rise. People just can't get back to normal. So there's a point here. I will practice normal hygiene and wash my hands as always, but absolutely no way I'll mask up. And I pray that schools will fight this because I know the damage that has been done to so many children and small businesses. My body, my choice. Thanks. Rant over. Yes, we've had that conversation. I know when I worked, let me take that down. I know when I worked for Congressman Joe Sempolinski, that was a major topic as well, something that he was a part of in committee hearings in Washington about how this affected young children so much, how it set them back. And we mentioned it yesterday with that article, how it set back some young people, you're talking years in a way, when it comes to their education and their abilities of where they should be at. Now, we've got to take a break because when we come back, Chase Bally will be our guest. It is fight morning here on Frankly Speaking, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. This is Fight Morning on Frankly Speaking because we're being joined by Chase Bally. Chase, thanks so much for being on the program this morning.
I appreciate you having me, man.
This is going to be a lot of fun. So I know you see me and you see like a perfect athlete, right? As soon as you see me. But you know what? I haven't actually fought. What do you think of that? So I'm going to ask you a lot of simple questions. Okay. So tell us first your background and why you got into MMA.
I would say it was just kind of situational. I played lacrosse growing up and always went to the gym, worked out and whatnot. And after college, there wasn't really anything to fill that void.
Sure.
And down at the mall, there was an MMA gym that came into it for a little bit. And I chose to give it a shot and been on and off ever since.
So the first time you fought, or maybe even the first time you trained, what was that like?
It took me a minute to pick where I was going to start to train and whatnot. All the gyms are a lot different.
Sure.
And I feel like there's always that nervousness, you've never done anything like that. And I would definitely tell everyone it's not near as bad as you would think when you walk into an MMA gym.
Really?
It's actually pretty enjoyable.
Okay. Well, to each their own, we'll put it that way. Chase is going to be fighting Luke Kelly this Saturday at the L, 116 Breesport Road in Horseheads. Do you have something you specialize in?
I'd like to say that I prefer to strike, but obviously as an MMA fighter, you have to train all the facets, and I feel like we work pretty well at everything. You know, you're working the ground game and the stand up, but I definitely like to try and put people away with my hands.
Sure, it makes it the easiest, right? Did you wrestle in high school or just
No,
across?
nope, I didn't.
Was that difficult to take up?
Yeah, I would say a lot of people, you know, I believe like Luke, I'm not sure, have a good wrestling background, you know, and yeah, there's a lot of years that you can't really necessarily make up.
Right.
So a lot of hard work goes into trying to negate things like that.
So do you find yourself spending more time on that?
For certain camps, I feel like things change and whatnot, but I always try to work a good amount of wrestling in general because it's going to be something I'm lacking more than my striking. But things are coming together well, and I feel pretty good.
So how did you prepare for this fight specifically?
Really not a whole big change. I mean, you'll change small things for opponents and whatnot, but I definitely try to train everything and worry about more about what I'm going to do than what they're going to do.
Sure. And you're fighting at 155. Did you have to cut weight, add weight?
Yeah, yep, I cut a little bit of weight to get down there.
How difficult is that?
It's a mental thing, you know. It's obviously a lot of, you know, body manipulation and whatnot, but you just got to beat your head more than anything and get through the weight cut, and then all the fun comes after that.
Yeah, sure. How long have you been fighting?
It's been like 12 years
Oh,
on
really?
and off. It's
Wow.
started a long time ago, but never stuck with it year after year. Just
Awesome.
kind of trained on and off. And
So what got you back into it to fight this weekend?
the last fight kind of brought me out. I've been wanting to fight again and had been training, and things went well there. And obviously all of the attraction, and it's getting bigger in the area
Oh,
and
yeah.
whatnot, so I wanted to be a part of it. And the fights at home are nice because you get everyone to come in there, and a lot of the farther ones, people don't travel as far to see it.
I went to the last one at the L,
Yeah.
and it was, I basically had to watch it from the parking lot. It was so
Yeah,
crowded.
it
But
was.
it's so neat to see the fan support.
It was a pretty cool environment. They were so tightly packed in there.
And you've got fan support, as I mentioned, but it's got to be hometown. That's got to feel really
Yeah,
good.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So you got a lot of people coming?
Yeah, there should be a good chunk of people
Yeah,
coming. We
yeah.
had a good turnout last time.
Now, you said you took a little time off, and when you watch boxers, you know, they'll retire, and then they come back, and they
Yeah.
retire and come back. Do you have that drive that you say, I really, truly miss it?
Yeah, I have more of a drive. It's always been a hobby for me, even though,
Right.
you know, you're going out there and going
That's-
after somebody. It's always been somewhat of a hobby, but now we're putting a lot more work in, and I'm enjoying the ride.
Did you ever think of taking up knitting or something for a hobby
I know,
instead?
something a little
less
easier
dangerous.
on the face.
What does your family think of it? Are they nervous?
Yeah, they get
Yeah.
nervous in the beginning. I don't think they understood what the heck was going on, and
Yeah.
and now, you know, they get excited and nervous, and
Sure.
I'm sure they still wish I'd hang it up, but I got a little bit of fight in the old dog.
Who do you think is more nervous? You? Do you get nervous? I guess a fighter can't say he's nervous.
I mean, you could say whatever you want, right? There's a lot of different big-time fighters that talk about that, and I feel like everyone, I would say it goes in waves, right? Not really nervous, but you have your ups and downs,
Sure.
you know, your confident days and your days where, you know, you feel like, man, I got to get to work, and
Yeah.
but it's a little bit of a roller coaster, but I'm always pretty confident in what I'm doing, and there's no shame either way.
Right. I've always found it fascinating. Not everybody probably asks, and I'm going to ask this too, like when the minute you step in the octagon, what that feels like. But what about the rest of that day before? Like when you wake up, can you sleep? And then you figure you got all that time, and you just want to get in there, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean, you know, with the weight cut as well. Like, you just got to control your mind. It gets,
Yeah.
things get running out there. And yeah, the day before I get kind of numb to it.
Okay.
I know what's coming, and it's the calm before the storm, and I'm just hanging out and
Yeah.
waiting for that time to close the cage door.
And I know boxers warm up a little bit, but you don't want to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not warming up all day when you start a little bit
No,
before.
I might get up and early in the day, you know, get some good nutrition in you, get
Sure.
some water in you, and get the blood flowing. I might move around a little bit and get the blood flowing, but I won't start working out until I warm up before the fight pretty well.
Great. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Welcome back to Fight Morning here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. This is the M.A. Neal Financial Services section of our program. We're being joined by Chase Bally. So you said you have to cut weight. What's the first thing you eat when it's over?
When it's over,
Yeah.
I got to get all my proteins and
Yeah.
my fats and my carbs back in me, but I definitely start with some electrolytes, get
Okay.
the water and refill up on all that before I start putting any solid food in there.
Okay, and I guess it's different depending on how the fight goes. But the next morning, I would think, I stub my toe and it hurts for like a month. What's it like the next morning after a fight?
After the fight?
Yeah.
It depends. They're all a little different, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny. Some of the adrenaline's rushing, when you're going at it, and the next morning, after everything calms down, you have a sleep. It's funny to find where some of the aches and pains are in your body.
Can you sleep at night, or is adrenaline still going?
Before the fight?
No, after the fight.
After the fight, yeah, I normally don't have too bad of an issue. Stay up for a little bit and
Sure.
ride the high for a little bit, and then no, I don't have an issue.
So you're fighting for the GF Vacant Lightweight Championship. Have you ever fought for a belt before?
No, I have not.
Is that bring an extra level of pressure or excitement?
It doesn't really bring too much
No.
different for me. I know what I got to go out there and
Sure.
do, and it's all a good opportunity for me either way.
Now you mentioned you pay attention to your game. You don't
Yep.
really focus on your opponent, but do you have thoughts on your opponent?
I don't know. Everyone says he's a nice guy, and it seems like he's polite. So I feel like when we all get out there, it's going to be pretty casual, and then we're going to go to war. And I have a feeling it'll be pretty casual afterwards.
That's what's amazing, and boxing's the same way. But the hug at the end of the fight,
Yeah,
and
right.
you watch two guys essentially trying to kill each other, and they just give the. I think that speaks volumes about the sport.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And all fighters are different, and that's how I assume that this one will go. I go out there and let it all hang out, and then afterwards, it was a challenge. We both tested ourselves, and nothing but respect.
And now, how different is it? Because you said you played lacrosse, a team sport, and then you go. The only one responsible for how that fight goes
Yeah.
is you. How
Yeah.
does that feel?
That I feel like that's part of the high for me.
Is it?
There's no one else out there. You got your team that helps you get there, and your training partners that help you get there. But when they close that door, I'm the only one that can bring the outcome that I'm looking for.
I feel like I think about this more than fighters do. Do you spend a lot of time picking your song that you come into the octagon with?
I feel like I have a lot of people that are always riding me about that and
Oh.
sending me different things, saying, "What about this one? What about that one?" And I'm not super picky. I try to find something that kind of I identify with at the current time in my life,
Oh, okay.
and something that's gonna kind of put me in the right mood, and then I go with it. Got to have a little bit of an upbeat to it,
Sure.
and that's about it.
So you don't have a theme song. You change fight to fight.
This one might be the same as the last
Okay.
one, but no, I haven't stuck with the same one throughout.
So you're worried about training. You're not putting on music to figure out the song.
Yeah. I
basically.
mean, it'll be nice when my song comes on. That'll all be great,
Then-
but I'm focused on the important stuff for now.
And you said when you come in, and I mentioned this, and I should ask the question. So we talked about the day of, but what is it like when you enter the octagon? Is it like people talk about just being in the zone?
Yeah, I feel like every time's different, and you really got to get to that point in your mind. You're transforming yourself. You're going
Sure.
to war now. I'm not on the street,
Yeah.
shaking hands and doing whatever. We're going to war, and I feel like the walk down to the cage it's all about it. You can hear the fans, you
Yeah.
see the people and whatnot, and you walk all the way down, get in there, and then he comes in and they close that door. And like I said earlier, I feel like it's numb. Everything quiets down, and once the bell rings, then it goes.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of fights when it comes to boxing, and there'll always be that one guy in the crowd that's yelling out what the fighter should do. Like,
Yeah.
1, 2.
Yeah.
Is there any way, first of all, I wish the person would stop because he's always the one sitting right next to me.
Yeah.
And there's no way you're listening to anybody in the crowd give you directions.
No, it's funny. Every now and then you can hear some random voices
Yeah.
or random people you recognize.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, sometimes when things go and you're getting pounded in the head, and the adrenaline's rushing, it's hard to hear your own coaches
I'm
right
sure.
in the corner. So a lot of times you don't hear that. But every now and then I have heard a few random things.
How bad is your fight plan going if you're listening to a stranger in the crowd?
Yeah, I mean,
At that point, you probably should readjust.
yeah, it might be a little troublesome. And if it helps you, then
Hey,
by
well,
all means, you
hire
should
the guy.
probably hire him.
Yeah. So after the fight this Saturday at the L, going for the belt, the Vacant Lightweight Championship, what's next?
I don't really know, to
No.
be honest with you.
You want to keep fighting?
I do. I do. I'm getting a little bit older now. I'm 34, and for this game, that's pretty old.
Yeah.
And
But not really as
I
bad in
feel-
MMA.
No,
You know,
no.
when you think about it, boxing, it's almost like unheard of sometimes. When they
Exactly,
get,
yep.
But MMA, I'm sometimes shocked
There
at.
are
Yeah.
some, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you're good at your
Yeah.
your craft.
Yeah.
I don't know. I plan on seeing what I can do here and definitely go on at least a few more times and try and get some more wins and see how far we can go with it.
Would you, and maybe you've already done this, would you like to travel outside of our area?
I'm getting to that point now. Before, I really like to fight local because
Yeah.
that's where everyone could come and whatnot. But I would like to get to fighting outside of the area a little bit, go see some places and stuff like that would be nice.
That'd be great. So before we go, the fight is this Saturday at the L. You're fighting Luke Kelly at 155. What's the best place to get tickets? Because I know it's almost like American Idol. You can vote by buying the ticket.
So
You get something.
I believe online
Yeah.
you can get some tickets and you can choose, who you're coming to see, and that kind of credits it to whatever fighter you choose.
Sure.
And I have a lot of hard copy tickets as well. If anyone needs tickets, they can contact me, and I'm able to get them some too.
Well, best of luck this weekend.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thank you so much for joining us. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We've got quite a few political issues to get to. I do want to thank Luke Kelly and Chase Bally for being on the program this morning. Just something a little bit different, but two hometown boys duking it out in the octagon on Saturday. I thought it'd be fun and just something a little bit different. We do have a lot of political issues, so as always, feel free to reach out to me at any time. First, I want to mention, and this has kind of been flying under the radar a little bit. You could blame that on the media. You can blame it on a lack of interest when it comes to some of the dealings of President Biden. So let me go to the browser. The National Archives and Records Administration has admitted that it is in possession of nearly 5,400 emails, electronic recordings, and documents that potentially show President Biden using that fake name. He had a few. Again, you may not be aware of this story, but he was using these during his vice presidency. Some have speculated, and that's why there's this lawsuit. Some have speculated that maybe some of them are in regards to business dealings with Hunter Biden. Again, the National Archives and Records Administration confirmed the existence of the trove in response to a June 2022, Freedom of Information Act request. So that goes back quite some time. By the Southeastern Legal Foundation is the group that was involved. That's a nonprofit constitutional legal group. The request asked for emails pertaining to the accounts of Robin Ware, Robert L. Peters, and J.R.B. Ware. All these, at least this might not be the right word, but they were emails that then Vice President Biden was using. Quote, all too often, public officials abuse their power by using it for their personal or political benefit. When they do, many seek to hide it. The only way to preserve government integrity is for NARA to release Biden's nearly 5,400 emails to this group, again, SLF, the Southeastern Legal Foundation, and thus the public. The American public deserves to know what is in them, said SLF General Counsel Kimberly Herman. The group accuses NARA of having dragged its feet. Yes, that is a long time. Freedom of Information Act does take a request, does take quite a while, but this has been since June of 2022. And they say that not a single email has been produced since the government agency acknowledged their existence just days after the request. Oh, okay, so that actually came quite some time ago, and that's common, and it's not a good thing for transparency in government, but the Freedom of Information Act requests very often kind of ignored, hoping that the person will go away. I just found that interesting because many of you may not have been aware of this issue whatsoever. We also have, did you see yesterday, speaking of, how am I doing on time? Hold on. Did you see that President Biden made the claim, and we've told you the stories of where he says that his son Beau died in Iraq, which is inaccurate. He always has these stories, and people have almost gotten used to him, where it's just, it must grow through the year. This is a new one, as far as I'm aware. President Joe Biden made a false claim yesterday that he, quote, literally convinced Strom Thurmond to vote for the Civil Rights Act. This is a quote from the president. Pause for just a moment. I thought things had changed. I was able to literally, not figuratively, talk Strom Thurmond into voting for the Civil Rights Act before he died. And I thought, well, maybe there's real progress. But hate never dies. It just hides. It hides under the rocks. Now, if you do just basic math on this, Strom Thurmond didn't really die that long ago, well after the Civil Rights Act. So the time frame doesn't work out. Now, if you're not familiar with Strom Thurmond, he switched to the Republican Party after being years of being a Democrat. He voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964 before Joe Biden had even entered politics, being that he was just 21 years old at the time, meaning Joe Biden. Strom Thurmond also died in 2003, many decades after the passing of civil rights. Thurmond not only voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, he also holds the record for the longest ever filibuster opposing the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Yeah, I guess the White House amended what he had to say to later suggest that the president was instrumental in getting Thurmond's vote for the Voting Rights Act in 1980. Again, the time frame doesn't really add up. But again, one of these stories that just kind of grows outlandishly through the years. We have so much to talk about, but we do have to take a short break. Again, weigh in. We're going to talk about some updates on the presidential election. Republicans making some moves, some maybe you could argue being overhyped a little bit. The media looking for anything, as they normally do. Everybody's great if they're going to go after Trump or if they think that they're a threat to Trump. But it's interesting to me to see how many people have, basically in the media and those on the left, latch on to Nikki Haley. Just kind of interesting. I like Nikki Haley. I thought she did a fine job at the debate, but that seems to be the media's talking point right now, that she is, well, how they put it, is the only chance to stop Trump on the Republican side. But when I say it's overhyped, I mean, you're talking still single digits in the polls. They're almost ignoring the fact of how big Trump's lead is in those polls. So they're talking about 1 or 2 points here for people that are still in the single digits. It's kind of fascinating how they're forced to cover this. But we have to take a break, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox fight morning broadcast here on Frankly Speaking. It's fun, something a little different. I had a viewer send me this article, and I want to thank them very much. It's an article by Jonathan Turley, who we mention quite frequently. You can find his website, jonathanturley.org. And he has this piece. It's a few days old now, so I'm not going to get into it too much. But it's why the House has no alternative to an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. And he goes on to talk about, and it's been long discussed, Kevin McCarthy has brought it up a few times. He talks about the debacle of Hunter Biden and the investigation, where even one CNN analyst called it an unholy mess, but the Hunter Biden investigation. And then, of course, we saw the sweetheart deal collapse. So he says there's just too many questions. It's only right that, and that's kind of the crux of his argument, that it's only right that the House begin that impeachment inquiry into the president when they get back from recess. So I just wanted to mention it, but thank you to that person who sent that to me. Really appreciate it. Interesting read. Again, you can find it at Jonathan Turley's website. So Nikki Haley is the big discussion right now. She hauled in $1 million in the 72 hours after the first debate. I mean, that's impressive numbers. I'm not knocking that, but just the mugshot alone, with the first couple days, raised, what was it, $7 million for former President Trump? I mean, $1 million is nothing to sneeze at. Don't get me wrong. This is great news for Nikki Haley, but still a long way to go. I think in the first 72 hours, we raised $1 million. We've had thousands of people volunteer. We've had a lot of people join the campaign. The phones are still ringing, Haley said. Haley spoke in front of a pretty good crowd, about 1,000 people in the auditorium. So, and we do have to take a break here in just a little bit, but there's been a lot of praise of her performance. I think some of you mentioned it after the debate, many people recognizing that she's very talented. She does do a very good job when it comes to public speaking. I have no problem with Nikki Haley, but it always raises some red flags when the media goes all in. You understand why they're going after Chris Christie. Or I'm not going after, supporting Chris Christie, because Chris Christie is going after Trump. So that's why originally we saw so many in the media praising Christie, who they never really liked in the past, but now it's different. My enemy's enemy is my friend, or something like that. They definitely wanted someone in there that would be the attack dog, and really, Nikki Haley did that, I think, more effectively in a way than Chris Christie, because she mentioned that $7 trillion deficit, $7 trillion in spending from the former president. So she had a couple good lines in there. Chris Christie is exactly what you would expect. I don't want to go back to the debate, but it is interesting to see how many people in the media, maybe those that you would say moderate or left-leaning in general, have kind of jumped on the Nikki Haley bandwagon and singing her praises. I'm going to give you another example of that when we come back. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be back after this quick commercial break. Thank you again for joining us here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox. I am your host, Frank Acom, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So I mentioned a lot of people jumping on the Nikki Haley bandwagon. Here is an example. Now, the Daily Beast, kind of a far left outfit, or at least you could say a liberal outlet, and you can almost see their giddiness in this headline. Nikki Haley is starting to look like a real threat to Trump. It's interesting, though, when you really dig deep, they start talking about the numbers, and she's still polling-wise in the single digits. Again, I'm not trying to spend this program knocking Nikki Haley. I just like to see who the media is praising and then try to get to the bottom of it, of why. Is it time for Republicans to take Nikki Haley seriously? Matt Lewis from the Daily Beast asked. According to new Emerson College polling survey, Haley saw the largest increase in support among Republican candidates, jumping 5 points from 2% to 7% following the debate. Spencer Kimball, who was one of the people in charge of this polling, said Nikki Haley's support increased from about 2% to 9% among voters over 50 years of age, while Trump's support dropped within this age group from about 56% to 49% after the debate. Now, the jump is modest. I mean, she's still at single digits, but it's also no outlier. According to a poll conducted by the Washington Post, 538, and Ipsos, released last Thursday, voters were persuaded to at least give her a second look. So how did she do it? Haley caught our attention by being first. Now, this is interesting. Caught our attention at the Daily Beast, though. These aren't people that are going to support who the Republican nominee is, even if it isn't Trump. But got the attention by being first to hit Trump from the right when she criticized him for adding $8 trillion to our debt. They surprised everyone. That surprised everyone, demonstrated courage, and put to rest the notion that she is merely running to be Trump's vice president. And I will say that was kind of a stain on her reputation in a way, because many people did think that she was just looking for a cabinet position or perhaps VP. So by taking that hit at Trump, she kind of singled herself out as being, hey, I'm in it for me being president. And I know candidates always say that, but sometimes actions speak louder than words. And in this case, she did put her money where her mouth is. I'm not going to go through all the reasons why the Daily Beast now all of a sudden likes her, but it's hardly guaranteed. And as I've noted, courage comes and goes with Haley. See, they still have to take their dig in. But in the Matt Lewis primary, that's who wrote this piece, you can count me among the 46% who are now considering voting for her. Well, you can't deny she did a good job at the debate. But again, always raises red flags to me when the media tells us who our nominee should be as a Republican. Those people, Matt Lewis will not vote for Nikki Haley if she becomes a nominee. but telling us how great and singing her praises. We've got a few other updates on that. As always, you can weigh in before we take our last break and wrap things up here on Frankly Speaking. Another show that is going just way too quickly. Wow, that's what happens when you have two guests, and they were so fascinating that I gave them quite a bit of time. So we are moving fast this morning. You'll have to stay with us as we wrap things up here on Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Got a little bonus behind-the-scenes action. I knew we were coming back a little bit short from that break, so that's the angle you get while we wait to go back live on the air. Ramaswamy, I don't know if you saw the video. He was at a fair or some fundraiser, and he rapped. He sang Lose Yourself, the Eminem song, and some people were really impressed with it. Eminem, not so much. He's asked or sent a cease and desist. I'm not going to buy too much into this. That's so common. Artists do it all the time, especially when it's Republicans, where they say, I can't stand this person. I don't want you playing my song. I know it happened a lot with Trump, but it makes, it puts their name in the news and shows, kind of their left bona fides to their supporters. So Eminem said it was at the Iowa State Fair. He said no more, Ramaswamy. BMI, a performing rights organization, has informed Ramaswamy's campaign at Eminem's request that it will no longer license the rapper's music for use by the campaign. A spokesperson said Vivek just got on the stage and cut loose. To the American people's chagrin, we'll have to leave the rapping to the real Slim Shady. Yeah, well, so... Oh, by the way, a lot of pushback, a lot of people outraged at the judge who set Trump's trial date the day before Super Tuesday. That Monday, some calling it, quote, blatant election interference. Representative Jim Banks said Democrats are putting President Trump on trial for election interference the day before Super Tuesday. Total sham. Very similar, everybody, with their talking points. One saying, how is this not election interference? That's the House Committee on the Judiciary GOP account. All right, we are out of time. Oh, there's a piece at the Washington Post. The world is contemplating a second Trump administration. Possibility that former president will win next year's election has capitals across the globe on edge. We are out of time. Thank you so much to Luke Kelly and Chase Balley for being my guests this morning. They are fighting each other at 155 pounds in MMA at the L this Saturday. So we really appreciate them taking time out of their busy work schedule and their training schedule to be on the show. It should be a really good fight. Both very talented fighters. So we just changed it up a little bit here on Frankly Speaking and had a fight morning. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, as you know. So make sure that you tune in starting at 7 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox. Have a great day. We do have guests coming up tomorrow and Thursday, so please make sure that you tune in. And we will talk to you bright and early tomorrow morning. Have a great day, everyone.